Beep, beep, beep. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? I hope you're well. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. What an extraordinary few weeks. Is it me, or has it been an extraordinary few weeks? You tell me in the comments. An extraordinary time indeed, particularly in the last couple of days after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump by a lunatic with a gun. I watched all of this unfold alongside what's going on with Labour, what's going on with Wes Streeting, what's going on generally, particularly on Twitter, which is, I think, becoming the place where you go for your news. I mean, that's becoming an obvious thing from my perspective. But we've had a number of upheavals globally, as well as a number of upheavals locally. But I want to focus, if I can, just for a few minutes with you today on this latest rant on the puberty blocking subject, which is one that has got people most angry on Twitter and it appears most confused in the mainstream media. Nobody in their right mind could possibly imagine, if we were to go back 20 years ago, that we would be in a situation when whether or not to practice medical experimentation on children was a question at all. Somewhere in between 10 years ago or a bit before that, we have lost our collective marbles and our moral compass is now so shot that we can't distinguish right from wrong. It's time to understand, I think, from my perspective and from what I think when I consider my position, that the days of even vaguely pandering to the people who think this okay need to end. And I don't want to take scraps from the table, nor at the same time do I wish to do the Wes Streeting the disservice of pretending or asserting that the work he is doing is not extraordinary in the current climate, particularly, I imagine, amongst the Labourites. What Wes is attempting to do is to follow the evidence, as if evidence is needed, that messing with children's puberty is probably not a good idea. And he is doing so by utilising the Cass report and using that as a template for what he will do next as the individual in charge of health in this country. And what I hope he will do next is to block both puberty blockers and hormone therapies for the under 18s to ensure that it never happens again. The difficulty is, as I've had pointed out to me by many of the GC crowd and many of the feminists, is that Cass, unfortunately, has left loopholes in her report. Loopholes which I have no doubt in my mind are there because of the duress that Hillary received from activists involved in the report that she was preparing. Sops, if you will, to the cultists, for that is what they are. Wes is saying that in the event that the Good Law Project, the insane child of one Jolyon Morn, which attempts to do everything it can to get this cult into some kind of power, I presume because he's got skin in the game, I imagine, and therefore wants to keep it going. Same as David Tennant with his disturbed child. That what we have is a situation where he's waiting to see what happens with the Jolyon Morn case and whether or not there's one to be answered. And I find that inexplicable to a certain degree. And with respect, Wes, you're the government. Just pass a law. Stop messing about. Whether the case is given any credence or not is immaterial. Vivisection on children is not a matter of law. It's a matter of moral good and principle. We don't do it. End of story. End of story. I've also noticed a number of people who are saying, well, once they get to 18, they can do what they like. So here's my fears. Here's my fears. Even with Wes fighting ably to do what Wes is doing, that will make no difference, not one jot of difference to the trajectory of these confused young people's lives, the majority of whom will be gay or lesbian. The trajectory of their lives will not be changed. It will simply be delayed. And this is my greatest worry. In order for the puberty blocker ban and a hormone therapy ban to be effective, it must also be accompanied by a ban on teaching gender identity ideology as anything other but a cult. It will not work unless there is a concerted social effort by us all, and cultural effort, to state that there is no such thing as trans. There are confused children, there are fetishistic and paraphiliac men, and there are the mentally ill. That's it. It never was an identity, and it never should have been made into an identity. We have made, as a society, a terrible mistake. A terrible mistake. And that mistake is writ large on the bodies of young people. Because it's not the 40-plus men that are having their bits whipped off. It's young people that have fallen prey to this ideological cult and to this men's rights movement, which at heart is about fetishism, paraphilia, transvestism, cross-dressing, or as I call it, gusset fumbling. That's where we're at. So Wes Streeting's efforts are welcome, and they need to be, he needs to be applauded for it. But it's like accepting scraps on the table. How the hell are we in a situation where somebody like Wes, a gay man who gets it, is having to navigate this as if there's any answer to the question, should children be given puberty blockers and told they're trans, other than no, under no circumstances. But unless we eradicate this from the schools, unless we get this out of our culture and start saying no to having men in their 20s LARPing on Doctor Who as 15-year-old girls, saying no to having RuPaul's Drag Race parade people around, as if it's okay to do what they're doing when it's not, they're pushing a fetish and a paraphilia, to say no to teachers who think it's okay to wear a rainbow lanyard or a progress lanyard in work and talk about their gender identity. None of it will all be for naught, because what will happen next is this. We'll get the ban on the puberty blockers. We'll get the under 18s stopped from doing that, but we won't get any definitive answer as to what happens afterwards. The clinics will open, and those clinics will be staffed by gender ideologues within 6 months, because that's the way the game works. The decent people won't stay. Psychologists will stop working with people with gender identity issues. They'll stop working with people that have display this kind of thing, because there'll be such a huge insurance risk that nobody will want to do it. And then what will happen is the ideologues will move in, and you'll get the affirmation crowd will come in and just start doing it until they're stopped by some monumental error, some terrible thing, or by being sued. They're opening different gender clinics around the country than the Tavistock or GIDS that was at the Tavistock. They're just going to put them in different places, and those will end up falling to ideologues as well, and at which point at 18 they can accelerate the process by simply staffing these clinics as quickly as possible. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until we recognise that this cultural bubo is not political, it's cultural. It's going to take a cross-party consensus. And I don't mean the kind of consensus that Harriet Harman talks about. We've now got enough women to form a coalition. No, you haven't. And you shouldn't be doing that anyway. What is wrong with you? What we want is people who are not going to form a coalition, but see something that needs changing in our society and fight together to change it. And that is this. That is this. The need to get it out of schools, and the need to be able to tell the children the truth and to teach them this is what it is. It is a cult. To teach it as a cult. To show that LGBT plus is a cult. It is a cult, hard left movement populated by people who should damn well know better in my book. And that includes friends of mine. That's food for thought for you today. That's all I've got. Okay? But it's good to be talking once again. I've got to go and teach me warrior teachers now. I'll see you later. All right? Have a great day. Bye-bye.